To me, the feeling is the next evolution of our species. Because when we develop felt perception, there's that saying, where there's love, there's no law. And in a society where there's no feeling, there has to be law. Because when there's no feeling, there's no connection between action and consequence. So one can mentally justify anything and think something is a good idea mentally and do it. But if there's feeling involved, once we develop felt perception, there's a connection between our thoughts, words and deeds and the consequences. We can feel the connection. And that alone begins to govern us. So the heart begins to govern us as opposed to the head. So a person who has full developed felt perception can't send people to war because they can feel the consequence. And so that feeling will stop them and go, no, this is not the way. Or even try to hurt somebody or steal from somebody or anything, because that they will feel the consequence. So once humanity develops felt perception, you don't need to tell people how to behave and what is right and what is wrong and what is appropriate behavior. All of that, there's no need for that law. There's no need to make laws on how to not to cheat somebody, because it can all be felt. The consequence can be felt. So immediately the heart lets us know what is the consequence. It's a challenging part of the journey, because once one starts to feel more, we also get to feel the suffering in the world. And not only our own suffering, but to look at the world and feel the suffering of other beings. And that can also cause us to go, I don't want to feel too much. So there's a part of the journey that is, in my own experience, that I'm discovering where you get to feel what's going on around you, and sometimes you don't want to feel that, So the developing of felt perception is also, it has powerful fruits, because it's going to give us the capacity to realize what peace is, because peace is a feeling. Love is a feeling. All these things are feelings that we are after. But on the way there, we're also going to feel, the discomfort of being in the world. And part of developing the feeling body is to be able to feel the discomfort without reacting to it, and just allowing ourselves to feel it, so we can develop our own felt capacity and evolve through that without fiddling with it, without trying to save it or trying to fix it or but we can only do that really in the world when we can do it with ourselves. So when my own anger comes up, do I see it as a valid experience, or do I see it as something wrong that I must fix? And so only when I see that, no, my anger's coming up because it's something that's required for me to feel, and by feeling it, I develop my felt perception more. It's totally valid. So that when I see that about myself, then it's only when people are angry around me, I don't try and stop them or try and change their mind or make them understand something different, that I can say, well, that person is angry because they're also going through that. That's the way that they're going through that experience, and it's valid for them, whether they realize it, whether they react to it or respond to it or not. But the fact is, their experience is valid. Even if I don't understand it, the fact that it's happening to them, it's valid. And I would rather respond to it by treating it that way than react to it by saying I need to change it. But it first becomes an acceptance in myself of my own experience, And it always has to start with how I'm relating to my own emotional body. How I'm behaving towards my own emotional body is the way I'm behaving towards the world. They are one and the same thing. It's hard for us to see that, because mostly we see our relationships with others. But like we were talking about unconditional love and learning about what that really means. And I can't be unconditional with another human being if I have placed conditions on what I'm allowed to feel and what I'm not allowed to feel, and when I'm allowed to feel it, and who I'm allowed to feel it in front of. When I'm doing that to myself, and I'm placing those conditions on my own heart, then I'm going to be doing that to everybody around me. But I won't be looking at that inside of me. I'll be looking at others, how they're behaving, right? So it always starts with my relationship. Initially, you know, I call it my relationship with my own emotional condition. But really it is my relationship with my own vibration. It's just that my interaction with my vibration initially is coming through the emotional body. So even anger is actually love in a distorted form because of the imprint in the emotional body. So, you know, I can't say, oh, I'm going to be okay with love, but I'm not okay with anger. But they're the same thing. They're just in a distorted form, right? And it's only when I look at anger and I say, well, this is really just love in a distorted form. So I'm not going to try and change it or fix it. I'm going to be with it with no conditions. So it can move to a point of organic completion. Once I can do that with myself, then I'm able to be that way with other human beings. But if I'm being that way with other human beings and not being that way with myself, then my behavior towards others might look good, but it's going to be empty, really, of any consequence. Yeah, and that's often, you know, in the teachings of the Tao too. They also, you know, say, finally, when you're not doing everything, everything will be done. Right? And it's really like when I'm not going around interfering with everybody, then everything will be as it is. But I can't do that until I'm that way with myself. If I get up in the morning and I feel uncomfortable, and I can just say to myself, this is what's necessary for today. It doesn't make it more comfortable because I say that. It's still going to be uncomfortable. But being with it allows the energy to flow to a point of completion. And once at completion, I receive insight and gifts from it. And when I see that about my own experience, then I can allow other people to have their own experience.